Welcome back, everyone. For a long time now, I've wanted to do a video talking about what got me into collecting. And throughout this YouTube journey, I've had the chance to meet so many cool people, and I thought it'd be fun to get them together and have them talk about what got them into collecting as well. So, first up we have 8BitGlitch79. 79, sorry, thank you.
Hey guys, 8BitGlitch79 here, and I'd like to thank James from Nerdstillery for having me on the channel. He reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be a part of this collab he was putting together, discussing why the heck is it that we collect? What got me into collecting? What got me started back into collecting? Basically, the topic of collecting. Well, for me, video games have always been a part of my life growing up, ever since I could basically hold a controller in my hand to today. I grew up with the Atari 2600, playing that at a friend's house, and later had one at my house, and then eventually the NES is what really sucked me into the world of video games. It really is what captured my drive of playing games and starting to actually collect. I've been collecting ever since then. Of course, as a kid, you don't have much money, so you do what you can, and you end up trading some things just to get other games that you want. You scrounge and save up for one or two games here, and you try to find them at tag sales, yard sales, and the like. And but I think what really happened was when I got a little bit older and started working summer jobs around 14 years old or so, is when I really hit the ground running when it came to collecting. Because then I was making my own money regularly during the summer, and every Sunday I would go to the flea market. And back then, I mean, almost every table you go to had games of some sort. I mean, at the time it was like Super Nintendo was like the biggest thing. So NES was just like, they were just like, here, you want an NES game? Take it. You know, you can get them for like $1 or $2 a piece. And there's this one guy who every week would have a ton of NES games, and it was like new ones every week and stuff. It was like never dwindling. It was always just growing. So me and a friend would go there, and we would just, for like $20, we'd come home with like a stack of NES games. And that's how I pretty much built the collection that I have today. And then I started getting into more modern games, and well, modern at that time, and it just kept progressing like that. Now, I would say, as the PS1 came out, I really kind of lost focus on the retro. I still would collect a few here and there when I would come across them. And I still got some great deals back, say, around in 1999 when the Dreamcast and all that came out. I was still going to retro stores that existed even at that time and buying some NES games for dirt cheap. I remember buying like a Mega Man 1 for $1.99 then at that time. But then eventually I grew up, you know, got married. My wife was big into gaming and collecting at the time too when we were together. But eventually we decided to grow the family, and we had kids, and well, once the kids came along, the time to do things kind of dwindled, and I got way too busy with my career, focusing on my job, and now kids and stuff. So I would say for the first 5 or so years of the kids' lives, my first kid, and then the second one, they were 2 years apart, came along, I would say I kind of stopped playing games. I mean, I pretty much packed everything away, and it was basically in my crawl spaces. All my NES titles, everything, even my most modern. I had a PS4 and an Xbox 360 out, hooked up, but I mean, it was just a dust magnet, basically. It was never hardly turned on at that point. And then I started to get kind of depressed. I've admitted it before that I went through a really bad mental state, and down a really dark path. And then one day I stumbled upon Angry Video Game Nerd on YouTube, and and it was the Ghost and Goblins episode, and I just laughed, and I was just like, man, you're right, those NES games were something, and it just got me wicked nostalgic for them. So I ended up breaking out the NES and playing it a bit, and I was like, man, I missed this. This was it. This was what made me happy. This is what I looked forward to every day. I was playing these retro games, playing games in general. So it really sparked the interest, and then I started finding other people with similar interests on YouTube, like Mega Dan, Captain Algebra, J Love, Linda, aka the Gamer Girl, at the beginning, just to start, and I would follow their streams and stuff and videos, and I would never comment because I was too afraid. I was like, they're not gonna like me. I don't have anything useful to say or anything. And so then one day I finally decided I'm gonna make my own channel, I'll make my own account for video games, and I'm just gonna start commenting and joining in on the streams. And I did, and man, I mean, it was so welcoming to find other people who felt the same as me, got along with me, and we just had so much in common, and that it lifted my spirits and kind of got me out of that real depression funk. And, you know, it's something I still battle with every day because, you know, there's more to it than just, you know, making video games to make you happy. But in essence, it really dragged me out of that hole I was in, and it really saved me. So that's really why I collect. It's for nostalgic, but it's also to bring happiness to my life. It's a time of my life when I was really happy and enjoyed things, and it just sparks that happiness in me. So that's why I collect, and why I have this massive mountain of stuff that's collapsing in on me. Hoarder's paradise. So again, thanks James for inviting me onto the channel. I hope I didn't ramble too much. And if you want, guys, check out my channel, 8BitGlitch79. I really appreciate it. Everyone's welcome. It's a great community to be a part of. And until next time, I'm glitching out.
Next up, we have CliffRacer666. Oh, that's not good.
What up, everyone? I'm CliffRacer666, and today the question is, what got you into collecting? And the first thing I would like to do is thank James and Kim from Nerdstillery for asking me to appear in this collaboration. I think that was very cool of them to do that, so thank you very much. What got me into collecting? For me, as an adult, not counting the stuff that I was into as a little kid, like bottle caps and marbles, the first thing I collected as an adult was CDs. And the reason for that is simple. That the music I liked was not available on the radio or on TV or whatever for easy. They don't play Adam and His Package on the radio. So collecting CDs was very natural for me. I didn't have a computer. And even when I had access to the internet, not all the bands that I liked were even on the internet. Because if you were into punk rock, then, if you're into that at that time, or, you know, before 2010 probably, a lot of old, obscure punk rock wasn't online. So if you didn't have the CD, or you didn't know someone who had the CD, then you couldn't find it. And that's still the case today. There are some punk rock bands today that I cannot find on the internet. So there you go. I mean, that's this plain and simple. I mean, I collected punk rock CDs first, and then I even moved on briefly to punk rock vinyl, which I sold off almost all of it except for my Omega Tribe stuff. And Omega Tribe is a band that is very obscure. The plain and simple answer is CDs is what got me into collecting. I remember also collecting DVDs and stuff back then, but, that was way easier. The CDs that I wanted were always harder to find, of course. You had to go to certain record stores. You go check the used ones. You ask them what they could order. Back then, you had to, import albums from the UK. It was like this whole thing. You pay, oh, it's an import, dude. I guess it's still cool. I've bought CDs over the last few years, but it's not the same like it used to be for sure. But yeah, CDs is what really did it for me. That was my first big collection too as an adult. I still have all of them. So that's it. That's what got me into collecting. That's the answer. CDs and music. So thank you, James and Kim. Thanks again. I'll catch everyone later.
Next up, we have a familiar face to this channel. Back in the day, Lamer. Gamer. Back in the day, Gamer. Editor, please just cut that out. Just get.
What's happening, YouTube? Back in the day, Gamer here. Thanks for tuning in to see why I started collecting. First, I want to thank James for asking me to be a part of this. When he did, I was like, yeah, I'm super interested. And that was a while ago, and I'm finally getting around to shooting because I'm a bad YouTuber. But I didn't rehearse it. So why did I start collecting? Well, I guess I did rehearse it a little because I have these in my hand. But the answer is Nintendo. Yes, Nintendo. Back in the day, I was alive when Nintendo first came out. I was in grade school, but I was old enough to obviously know that I wanted them. First time I saw Nintendo, which is not what this collaboration is about, but walked into the first Cub Scout meeting I had at the Dunmother's house. They had one of those tri-level houses, and I saw this. Super Mario Brothers. Had never heard of it. There was no internet or cell phones. Texting didn't exist. Pagers didn't even exist by then. A lot of you don't even know what pagers are, right? But anyhow, walked in, had no warning, just bam! Super Mario right in my face. I'll never forget that. What the hell is that? From that moment on, I was hooked. Had to have it. I remember having like a temper tantrum. Like, Dad, Nintendo, need money now! But, you know, back in the day, there was no internet or anything like that. Like I said, you had no idea what games there were unless you saw them at the store or somebody had them. And then eventually Nintendo Power came out and you could read about it in there. But yeah, Nintendo, anyone my age pretty much encompassed their life and thoughts at that time. I realize for a lot of you it's probably hard to wrap your head around the fact that you didn't know about something unless you stumbled upon it. Yes, there was no email, text message, social media, anything. No, it was just boom, went to your friend's house, had it. That was the first game I saw, and it hooked me. Now, from then on, the second place that further my need to collect Nintendo games was at my dad's buddy's house, and their kids had my all-time favorite game, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Had to have that one too. It was a little while before I actually got that in the collection. But yeah, you know, I want to say 87, 88, something like that. Yeah, long time ago. But when I first got my Nintendo, it didn't come with the Mario Duck Hunt or anything. I had to buy a game, and the game I chose was Spy Hunter, because we used to go to this place called Major Magics, which is kind of like a mega Chuck E. Cheese, because Chuck E. Cheese sucks. But Major Magics, you know, tons of arcade games. I remember sitting inside the Spy Hunter cabinet, so when I was searching for a Nintendo game to buy with my system, I was like, oh hey, I remember playing Spy Hunter, it was awesome. Disappointed! And back in those days, you could take games back when you didn't like them, and I did. And that's when I got Spelunker, which most of you would recognize as not being a very good game, but I like it due to nostalgia, and I just like it. I don't know, the soundtrack's good. It's a fun game to play. Spelunker, collect that one. Next would lead me to Double Dragon, because I also played that at Major Magics, and that was a game that I had to add to my collection. I got that in 6th grade. I believe that's when it came out. That's how old I am. So, yes, why? What started me collecting? Nintendo. And to this day, I still collect Nintendo games. I collect other games as well, but it will always be Nintendo. So thanks for asking, James. Glad to be a part of this. Looking forward to see what everybody else says. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Till next time, YouTube, keep it retro!
I will say my story is kind of a long one, so I'm going to keep it as short as possible. But I feel like throughout my childhood, I've always had some sort of collector's mindset. I remember at a very young age, my grandmother gave me these arrowheads that she found when she was a kid. And for some reason, that got me fascinated with like rocks and all this kind of stuff. And apparently I still have them according to the wife, but I have not seen them in years, so who knows. After that, I started collecting the Sonic the Hedgehog comic books, which I didn't really take care of because I was a kid and didn't know how to take care of my shit. But thankfully, I still have some that are in decent condition. Then at one point I started collecting baseball cards, which is really weird because I don't give a shit about sports, let alone baseball. No idea what that was about. So for those who don't know, my generation seems to be very nostalgic. And as I got older, I found myself always wanting to just kind of go back and revisit my childhood in any way that I could. Because, let's be honest, getting old sucks. You have, ups and downs, there's dark periods of your life. And there was just something about going back and revisiting my childhood that just reminded me of what it was like to be carefree and innocent. But there's two phases that got me into collecting. The first was when my parents were moving away. They were moving back home to Pennsylvania. I had been out of town that weekend. My mom hit me up. She's like, hey, there's a box of your stuff out in the garage. Come pick it up when you can. And I'm thinking, man, what could be in this box? Because the wife and I had been moved out for a long time. Nothing was missing. So when I got this box home, I remember opening it up and I saw my karate belts from when I took karate as a kid. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Under that was my Sega Saturn, the only remaining console from my childhood. So that was such a surreal moment for me, but unfortunately most of the games were not in the best condition. Again, I was a kid and didn't take care of my shit. Which if I had known that the Sega Saturn would be so expensive nowadays, I'd have done things differently. But you know what? I'm glad that the most expensive game in my collection is still in pretty good condition. I just wanted to show that off. But then one Christmas, my wife bought me the AT games, or AT games, however you say it, little plug-and-play Sega Genesis, and I loved that thing because it had so many of the games that I played when I was a kid. It had some quirks though. The music wasn't quite right, but there was one game called Decap Attack. I played this game a lot when I was a kid, and this is the only game that did this. For some reason, it recognized the jump button as both the start button and the jump button. And you can imagine that's kind of difficult to play a platforming game like that. So then I got the genius idea of going out and buying Decap Attack, because you can play actual games on it. And it did the same thing. So then I thought, why not buy an actual Sega Genesis? So I did. And that was another surreal moment. The first time seeing like an actual Sega Genesis in like 15 years, if not longer. It was so cool. So like I was saying before, I was trying to hold on to my childhood in any way that I could. So originally the thought was I was going to get the games and the consoles that I remember playing as a kid. But then I started thinking, wait a minute, there's a whole world of video games out there that I never had the chance to explore when I was a kid. And it just evolved from that and became the obsession that it is today. Aside from all that, as we move into a digital age, there's just something about having a physical copy of something that just means something special. I don't know. There's so many games I've downloaded digitally and I'm just like, I forget that I have them half the time. But I love when people come over to my house. It's not about gloating or anything like that, but I just love to see the joy in their eyes when they're looking through and they see a game that they played as a kid. That's a big part of it. It's not just for me, but for other people when they come over to revisit their childhood. Now you might be wondering why the wife isn't here. Well, she didn't really have an in-depth story, but it's basically the same thing. It's about preserving history. And even with her collection, just seeing the joy in people's eyes when they come over and see these toys that they either had when they were a kid or remember seeing, or maybe they always wanted, could never get. There's just something special about that, and I love being a part of that and just holding on to that moment in time when you were just carefree and innocent. Well, anyway, guys, I could talk all day about this, but I want to thank 8BitGlitch79, CliffRacer666, and Back in the Day Gamer for being part of this video. Thank you guys so much for the support, and you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you again next time.